Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Alechem, Assalamu Alaikum, Eirini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you and welcome to 1 Samuel chapter 31, the final chapter of this first book of the Kingdoms. In this chapter there are 13 verses, beginning in verse 1. Wounded versus slain. So one is wounded, not killed, and the slain means killed. Verse 3 says here, find him. The archers found him. Versus the archers hit him. So I think it's my understanding of find. It seems they found him with the arrows. I'm not trying to be funny. I think that's just the way it is understood. Because the shooters with arrows, the archers, found him, and he was wounded under the ribs, so they shot him under the ribs. That makes sense. So hit him and find him. Perhaps it's the procedure, the process of how this happened. They found him and then hit him, versus they hit him and then hit him some more. Under the ribs. So under the ribs, the footnote here reads, in the hypochondria. Alright, what is the hypochondria? Let me look that up. I don't even know what hypochondria is. I think that's like a person who's anxious about their health. How can you hit someone under the hypochondria? So it seems to be an ancient term. Anatomy, Hypo, under the chondriac, under the cartilage, referring to the cartilage of the ribs. So they hit him under the cartilage of the ribs. So that's what it means. So literally under the ribs. So there's no problem with that. Verse 4, mock me versus abuse me. And actually, I would agree with the Masoretic. Because, as I covered in my previous video, way back in Genesis, referring to the story of Isaac and Ishmael, Ishmael didn't merely sport. He wasn't playing around with Isaac. He was abusing him. Not merely mocking him or sporting about him. He was abusing him. And the implication is that if you know about ancient Middle Eastern culture, especially when it comes to military warfare, one of the things that is done, and even to this day, sadly, is they will exert their authority and their power over their victims, not merely physically, but also sexually and physically. But they would sexually abuse their victims. Or maybe that's wrong. It could be mocking them, similar to how Yeshua was beaten up, and even the judge Samson was beaten up by the Philistines. But verses 9 and 10 actually answers this question. What does mocking mean? So in verse 9, sorry about that. Verse 9, it says here, they turned him and stripped off his armor. So that's part of the mocking. They turned him around and stripped off his armor. They didn't cut off his head. They simply turned him. So what does turned him mean? Does that involve sexual abuse or this abuse? Perhaps it does. Could be. And then in verse 10, they set up his armor at the temple of Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that name, but the temple of A, and fastened his body on the wall of B. I don't know if that's a place or a Elohim, fake Elohim anyway. And in any case, that's how they went about their mocking of King Saul. verse 13, that's the final verse. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go for verse 12 as well because there's an omission of Jonathan, the body of Jonathan. Specifically, was also brought to the wall of Beth Sam. And they say son versus sons. So I don't know if they had his sons there, but it says just son. So perhaps it was only King Saul and Jonathan and not the other sons of Saul. Verse 13, the final verse of this chapter, it's kind of bittersweet, but moving on to the second book. There are 4 books of the kingdom, so it says here, in the field versus under the tree. Okay, so 2 different places. So that's all for this book. I'm going to do a summary video summarizing the biggest differences in the first book of the kingdoms, aka the first book of Samuel. So thank you again. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Till next time, till the summary video, I bid you all Shabbat Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom in Hebrew, with the more Hebrew accent maybe. Shalom Alechem, Assalamu Alaikum, Eirini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you, and Maranatha.